I will be unhelpful here, but honest, that I struggle with this myself constantly. And I understand why every person I talk to is in the same boat. Running a business is really hard. The way you get there in this industry is almost accidental. You have a lot of energy, you see a little niche, it does very well, you scale up, you get to the point where you're hiring people. All of a sudden, you're now responsible for people. Then you make enough money to where maybe you have a shop, maybe you have a building, maybe things are becoming more real. And then you're dealing with like day-to-day things all the time. And then someone says, you need to do all this stuff. You suck at modern marketing. Everything's falling apart. And you're like, man, when am I ever going to find the time to do any of this? And even if I did have the time to do this, I don't know. I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of. It's just me. So,
welcome to the Automotive Advantage. Grow your business and get smarter in just 1 hour.
All right, episode 006 of the Automotive Advantage. Jamie, we've had, it's been a crazy 6 episodes so far. Why don't you kind of recap us, tell us where we started, what we've done, and kind of how we're feeling about this.
Yeah, so this is a podcast now on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And it's really an extension of work we did back when we were teaching some classes with the School of Automotive Machinists. And the Automotive Advantage newsletter popped up a couple years ago, and we've just kept doing it. And now here we are in some different formats. So we've been going back and forth with some tips. Talked a lot about AI. I've talked a lot about kind of the news and how it affects your business in the auto industry. And then we've started our guests. So I think when this one airs, we'll have the Mike Galimi interview out. And Mike Galimi had some real profound insights into where media is. And he works for a multi-billion-dollar media empire. But right now, you know, we've had a bunch of great meetings because of this podcast. And the other day we had a dinner with an automotive aftermarket company that left me really concerned about making sure we push our agenda to help these companies. And we're not going to do the normal format because I want to dive into how do we help you adapt or die your small business in the automotive aftermarket to make sure you survive 2025 and beyond.
I like it. It's weird because for us, this is just kind of a normal conversation we've had every Wednesday for the past decade, probably. But it really, once we started getting feedback from people, which has been incredible, sometimes hurtful, but always positive, right? It's always for the right reasons. But like, it really set in during that dinner, like, okay, this is really important to a lot of people. I think we're finding that a lot of people in this industry don't have great groups to talk to about this kind of stuff. There's not a lot of places to go to read about this stuff. There's not, you know, business quorums for these types of speed shops and stuff. So yeah, the gravity's starting to set in a little bit of like, okay, this is really important to a lot of people and we owe it to everybody to make this the best that we can. I think super fascinating and cool to see kind of this groundswell around it. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listened so far. I think by the time this episode's up, we'll have over 1,000 listens, which is crazy. And 1,000, again, seems like a very small number, but that's 1,000 people that have interacted with, you know, our thoughts and have given us feedback. So it's been really impactful. But yeah, the dinner, man, we could have spent 12 hours there talking about it, but why don't you set up kind of where that started and then what kind of takeaways we had from it?
Yeah, so we're invited to go to dinner. Galimi's there, and then a longtime friend of ours, and we're not going to use names because we don't want anybody to feel funny about it, but it was someone who listens to this podcast, and I should say, I share this. I'm super proud of where we're headed. So I'll send this out. I'm going to say at least 50 people get a text message from me weekly, probably 100. And I say, hey, if you got time, check out the latest podcast. I send them the YouTube link. This is one of those guys that took the time and listened to it and started opening up to us about where his company's at. So I think to share the experience and to frame up what's going on. And I really think this person was speaking for a lot of companies. And I should say, it's not all bad news in the automotive aftermarket. We're going to have Justin Keith on. He's an example of someone that's absolutely killing it out there with multiple revenue streams. And we're going to bring in other folks that have done amazing things. So there's good news out there, but there's also folks that are still trying to figure this out. And you and I have thought about this for a week, that specific meeting, but you and I saw this coming years ago. So I want to frame it up in that light. So here's what's going on. So this company's 25 or 30 years old. It's generational, specific to the performance aftermarket racing industry. I'm going to guess numbers of 10 to 20 million a year top line. And things were started in the 90s, in the 2000s. There was a racing component that attracted attention. There was a print advertising campaign. There was strong technical expertise once you called the shop and got the owner, operator on the phone. And then there was great service, right? The right part went out the door with the right installation parts and the right guidance, and then someone was always there if people got in trouble. That's how you built a 10, 20, 30, $100 million company going through the 90s and 2000s, okay? Here's what's happened. And you and I hear this all the time. I don't know where my customers are. I'm losing customers. I'm losing sales. People are calling me for my technical expertise, but then they buy it from somebody that's cheaper. The manufacturer's not helping me the way they used to. I've had to lay some people off. My website's not great. I don't really know if that's part of the story. But things aren't working and I got to fix it. And I haven't spent a lot of time working on my company. And there was this admission of, hey, I probably should have been paying attention, but I'm so busy running a $25 million company and I'm not, So that frames it up. And again, you and I have talked about this, like things are changing, things are rapidly changing. That's why having Mike Galimi on here, who has run this massive print empire, which is now this fragmented media world that we live in, right? People are getting information and their attention is all over the place. So, for me, this is kind of an emergency. Like this is why we're talking about this first. We're gonna touch on news, we're gonna touch on AI stuff. I know everybody's looking forward to that, but I want to address this. So how do we assess this, right? So the customer has changed. I don't know where my customer has gone. That would suggest people are leaving the industry. That's not true. The industry is bigger than it ever has been. It's just your customer is somewhere else. So, Justin, I'm going to throw it to you, and I've outlined the traditional sales funnel of print, telephone call, give me your credit card information over the phone, and I ship you parts in a week or two. What is the modern sales funnel, and how do I adapt to this thing? Because we're hearing from many companies, hey, I need to do something, I need to fix something. So where do we take these people?
So I think one thing is it's the same funnel, it's just happening in different places, right? So like, I think let's start with how speed shops used to and parts manufacturers used to work and why that worked so perfectly. So I'm just going to take a generic example. You're an LS camshaft company in the late 2000s, whatever. You were on ls1tech.com because all of the major enthusiasts for that type of thing were on LS1Tech. Then if you started to be successful, you were like, okay, now I want to advertise a little bit. So I'm going to go to GM High Tech magazine and I'm going to advertise in there. And then where else are my customers? They're on this forum, they're in this magazine, they're reading this magazine, and they're going to these events. So I'm going to go to these events and I'm going to meet with the customers at these events. So like fucking perfect, right? Like you were at all three places where your customers were. You were dealing with them digitally, hourly, or you're just on the forums. You were dealing with them in print where they were like, oh man, this guy's on the forum. I talked to this guy. Like, whoa, this is the brand that was right over here, right? And then you were at the track racing, probably setting fast times, and people were like, okay, these guys are legit. I saw him here. I saw him here. Now I'm seeing them at the track. Now I'm going to go meet them, shake their hand. And then when I get home, I'm going to order something from them. That was a great funnel, flawless funnel. That was a mystery to most people, but the people that were successful, it was not a mystery to them, right? And they did a great job. And now, fast forward to now, they're not really at the track that often anymore because they've been around and NMRA, NMCA is gone, whatever. There's a bunch of reasons why they're not at the track that much. They're not advertising in any print magazines because there are no print magazines around really. And whatever their niche is, isn't hot rod or isn't whatever, it is still around, okay? And then the forums are gone or very sparsely interacted on. And everything's just been atomized into Facebook groups. And they're old now, like we are. And they're like, I don't want to be in a bunch of Facebook groups. I don't want to be arguing with all these kids all day. So they're like, my customer is gone. But I think today, if you take that same 3-step approach, but just modernize it, instead of going to the track and meeting your customers face to face, they're doing that on YouTube now. We just met with someone who makes YouTube content, and people call him and go, are you the guy from the YouTube video? Just like I was at the track. Are you the guy from ls1tech.com, right? So I think the track component, the event component, is still around, but it's also on YouTube. The magazine component is no longer around, but that means you have to run ads other places, digitally, on Meta, most likely. Most companies that we talk to don't have a strategy for that. And then the forum part is Facebook groups, is Facebook, is Instagram, is whatever, and you have to go be a part of those things. So to me, the funnel, it's the same shape. It's just now the outlets are different. And when we hear from people that say, my customers moved on, it's like, yeah, they have, but you wouldn't just keep driving to the old track when everyone's racing at the new track. You would go to the new track. So like the new track might be YouTube, the new print might be Meta, and the new forum might be Meta again. So like, I think let's walk through. First, tell me if you think I'm wrong, and then tell me where someone can start with like rethinking about this funnel plan.
Yeah, good. I mean, I want to identify what worked right for 30, 40 years. That's good.
It still works, by the way. There are a lot of people who still go to the track, race, first in the 9s, first in the 8s, first in the whatever, that sell a lot of those things. But there are a lot of people now who are like, man, we used to go to the track a lot. I sold the hauler, blah, blah, blah. We don't really go that often anymore. I don't know why business has slowed down. It's like, well, because that was working, and it is still working.
Yeah, so let's start putting the pieces together I'm going to say to fix this or to adapt, right? So, and part of this, I'm going to talk about product a little bit. You got to be price competitive. What leverage do you have over a manufacturer? Like, why is the manufacturer not so good to me like they were before? Well, the answer may be you're just not as valuable, and that's a tough sandwich to eat, right? But you were a racer, you were setting records, you were on the cover of magazines that no longer exist. You're not racing, like that stuff is eroded. Your personal brand has eroded. We talk about this a lot, right? So what leverage do you have to help the manufacturer make better deals for you so that you can be price competitive? Well, some of these channels are incredibly powerful. And I love the model that you always use. If Cletus were to open a speed shop, how would that go? Well, shit, it'd be amazing. We know how that would go, right? So work that backwards. So look, I think there's some key elements here, right? Let's say you got a great shop, you know everything about your product, you got a great product, you got a tech, the staff is there, everything works, right? You got to have some sort of social presence, and it's got to be regular, and it's got to be part of your marketing budget. It's got to be something you plan on. It's got to be something that you work on. You got to put effort into this. That's why we talk about it. That's why you and I have been so successful with some of these brands that we've managed. Then you've got to give them a place to land, right? And it can be a social your Instagram profile. It can be that, but for me, it's your website. The second step is always going to be, I want more, right? I'm moving down the funnel. I want to research this a little bit more, give me a deeper experience. Your website has to be functional. And then you're down to the point of the sale, okay? Some people will still call you, especially if it's a super expensive item. If you're selling a car or used car or race car or really expensive stuff, a lot of people don't want to talk to human beings. They just don't. They want to put a credit card in. If your content is good on your website and you're a trusted member of this community, this industry, and they trust you because of your YouTube presence, just have a functional e-commerce store. There are a lot of companies that can help you do that. Make the sale, and then I think, and be competitively priced, right? I'm adding that in, work with your manufacturer. You have to be competitively priced. You are not worth 10% more than someone else. That's just a path to lose. Be competitively priced, Justin, and then you have more experience here, but you got to ship it fast. You can't sit on this stuff. People expect an immediate email with what the shipping information is, because Amazon has trained us to act that way. So create all of those elements so you can connect the dots. And then I think I want you to take over, Justin, on how I jam this funnel, right? How do I get a lot of people moving toward me? I still think events are huge. I still think races and setting records are huge. You got to make sure you broadcast that, though. You got to share that. So where do I go from there? I've got all my tools in place. I've got a new modern funnel. How do I get a bunch of people to look at my stuff?
Yeah, I think especially now, it's tempting to start at the top of the funnel because it's fun up there, but you really should do it backwards, to your point. Like, you should not be working on top of the funnel, meaning a lot of eyeballs, a lot of awareness, if you don't have the mechanism in place to sell these things, meaning you got to have a phone line that people can reach, that has a person who's nice that answers the phone and can help people. You have to have a website where they can learn a lot about these things. You got to do that. And then you have to go up one level, which is like, they have to be able to learn about your stuff. So we talk about this a lot on the website, but again, I just go back to how it used to be, right? I'm a guy who wants to make my 4th gen Camaro faster. I go on LS1 Tech, I'm reading all these things. There's a lot of opinions, but people have, because of post count and like, who you should be listening to, right? So you find some people and you're like, okay, I think this is the cylinder head I want. Then GM High Tech does a cylinder head shootout and I'm like, oh shit, that's the one right there. And then I go to LSX shootout and I'm like, hey, that's the cylinder head guy. Man, I'm thinking about these things, right? And now I'm talking to you one-to-one. Now I'm going to buy this thing. That's kind of the old way of doing it. Now it's the same thing though. Like, I'm going to find it on Instagram because someone posted something cool about it. I'm going to go to your website to read about the specs and make a buying decision. And then at the end, I'm either going to find you if I'm a person who wants to find you, or I'm going to go to YouTube and see, instead of calling this person, because I'm an awkward millennial and I don't like calling people, can I just interface with this person through a YouTube video? And like, so many people now are like, well, I don't want to be on camera, or I don't want to blah, blah, or it's not that exciting. It's like, well, then be happy with the sales that you're making right now, because someone else is going to pop up on YouTube and do those things.
I want you to offer up some other suggestions, though. You don't have to be on camera. You could do a voiceover. You could even write it out and do a synthetic voice that might be a little too advanced for a shop owner. I'm being real cautious as I say that. Or you have young professionals that are good at social media that have a phone. You can do, like, what we're talking about is not a fancy, elaborate social media effort. We're talking about a phone and a dedicated amount of time every day to change the course of your company. And this isn't based on Gary V hypotheticals. This isn't, whatever your favorite influencer is. We've done this with companies. We've changed the course of their future by making sure they have a presence. And it's just the attention. It's not because this thing is better than print. It's just people have moved to a different platform.
All right, yeah, let's demystify YouTube videos for a minute because a lot of people think you need to build a set like this, you need like lights and you need whatever. I can think of 3 examples right now that come up in my Instagram feed a lot of the dude who wears the bow tie that sells Mercedes, the dude George who sells cars in a parking lot somewhere. These guys are literally just recording phone calls. They just have like a GoPro on their desk, customer calls, hit record. What's up, man? What can I help you with? Oh, I'm looking to buy a set of LSX cylinder heads. Okay, what's up with your car? Like, that is a video because instead of me having to call you, I have the same questions. If someone calls you with that question, more people have that question. Like, you can just record that. Or you can just tell someone in your office, like, hey, if I'm on the phone saying something cool, just record it and put it up on YouTube. Like, those guys are crushing it. And they're not making YouTube videos. They're just on the phone like, what are you trying to sell me? Oh, you're $400,000 upside down on a SF90. Sucks to be you, right? And we're like sharing those videos like crazy. So that stuff used to happen on the forums where shop owners were in the forums arguing with one another. And like the rest of the world was watching on the outside and like, oh shit, that air intake looks sick. Oh, he's calling him out on that. So like, I think the big holdup is I don't want to make YouTube videos. And it's like, great. You don't have to make YouTube videos. You can just document your day-to-day. Every shop I'm in, as a person who doesn't work in the shop, you can walk up to any car and be like, tell me about this car. And the owner of the shop or anyone there is like, oh, dude, this car's cool. We're doing XYZ to it. The guy was like this and he wanted to go like this. And then we bought this and this thing broke and we did that. That's a YouTube video. Like, again, you don't have to sit down. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to, right? Again, Justin was telling us he's just vlogging his day. He's not making crazy videos. There's no script. There's none of that stuff. So I think for anyone who says, I don't want to make videos, I don't know how to make videos, I don't have a video team, all valid, but the barrier is not as high as you think. Even Cletus, arguably one of the largest automotive YouTubers to ever exist, not a huge production value to a Cletus video. It's just some of his boys filming him doing crazy stuff. There's not a sound guy. There's not a crazy mic check, right? So like, it's just essential. And I think it would be the same as being around in the 90s, 2000s, and someone saying, well, I don't want to go to races. Okay. Well, then you're not going to sell race parts to race car guys because guess who's at the races? Other race car guys who do want to be at the races to sell race car parts, right? So that's what I think about a lot when I hear like, well, I don't want to make YouTube videos. It's like, okay, that's fine. But that's where a lot of the customers are today. And that's where a lot of people are consuming this information. So if you're not going to do that, kind of what's your plan?
I think we'll have people that listen to this and they have heard this before from other people and they're going to say bullshit. There's no way I'm going to sell X amount of product off of Instagram. And I'm going to tell you, I'm helping Badass Broncos, and Woody Farabee's a very advanced social media operator. Woody has sold $300,000 Broncos off of Instagram DM. He has sold $200,000 Broncos and never talked to a person. So this is, and we're going to bring examples in of people that are selling 15 jobs in their shop off of one YouTube video. I have this in my news item, but I think it fits here better. But we released one walk-up video of the V8 Bronco conversion for Badass Broncos. It was watched 300,000 times, and we have 60 people on a list that are waiting for a price to get a V8 in their Bronco.
Fun fact, when you make a production style video with slow motion jumps and sliding around and stuff, it will get 1/100th the amount of views. So again, like organic real content does 300,000 views. The produced cool content that we love making, 3,000 views. It's just how people want to consume content. But that's a great example. So the truck is built, it's ready, it's sitting in a parking lot. You're a guy who doesn't make YouTube content. Walk me through the production of this thing that has put 60 people on a list for a very expensive Bronco.
Yeah, it's not planned or rehearsed. There's no script. There's no lighting. It's sitting outside. If you watch the video, the only amount of directing I did was to tell Andy from Livernois, okay, walk up and start it, and I'll tell you when I'm going to hit record. Hit record. Andy starts it remotely. You get that exhaust note. Exhaust videos are huge. We're going to learn more about that. The sound of a car idling, especially in our world, really cool. Andy goes up, opens up the hood. It's the shock and awe that there's a Coyote V8 in this thing. Now, new product. People have been waiting for it. Pent-up demand. Badass Broncos figures it out. Livernois help. Like, all that comes to play. I get it. That's it. From a strictly content standpoint, you weren't there. I didn't have a team behind me coaching. I'm just holding my iPhone as steady as I can. I shot it horizontally. You may have wanted it vertically. I mean, that's something we could maybe coach people on when we get down there. But look, the point is the way this space works now, it's not about the print ad. It's not about setting records at the racetrack unless you're there covering it with an iPhone. But you can do some amazing stuff. You can build multi-million-dollar companies off of an iPhone social effort.
I do want to back up for a second because I've never had this thought, but I just had it while you were talking about it. When people say it's too expensive for me to go hire a YouTube person, it's too expensive for me to go hire a social media person, I understand that because it is expensive and it does suck. But can we rewind the tape to how expensive it was to buy your stacker and the race car and the spare engine and the overnighting of transmissions? Like, can we just rewind the tape for a second? We were fine with all that. Just new car every year, first in the eights, roll cages, the whole thing. But we don't have money for the YouTuber.
I'm sorry, he didn't say trigger warning incoming, rant coming. So this happens with him.
Trigger warning. We had money for all the cool race car stuff on planet Earth and the stacker and the hauler and the thing and whatever. And now we don't have money for the YouTuber. And it's like, that money is just as important as the money you spent back then. So that's where I'm at on that right now.
That's a great point. And I'm gonna drive this home. If you are the business owner and you're trying to figure out what happened to my customers and you're trying to, okay, you've heard this. I'm ready to adapt. I hear you, Justin. Like, I'm ready to do it. One of the things we hear all the time is, they admit, I don't spend the time working on my company. I'm so busy operating in the company, I need to focus on the company. And you and I hear this quite a bit. So there's a couple ways for me, and I know you got great thoughts here, but that's where outside consultants can help you a lot because they can think about your business and give you, even if you just scheduled a call with guys like us, it makes you think about your business. The other part is you gotta delegate whatever you got going. You gotta pull yourself out for at least a couple hours a week to think about where am I headed? What do my numbers look like, right? Look at your numbers. Make sure you got a CFO or a remote CFO that can help you. And you gotta work on your business. So take it from there. I've got another kind of anecdote that I wanna go over, but how do we help these people think more about their business?
I will be unhelpful here, but honest, that I struggle with this myself constantly. And I understand why every person I talk to is in the same boat. Running a business is really hard. The way you get there in this industry is almost accidental. You have a lot of energy, you see a little niche, it does very well, you scale up, you get to the point where you're hiring people. All of a sudden, you're now responsible for people. Then you make enough money to where maybe you have a shop, maybe you have a building, maybe things are becoming more real. And then you're dealing with like day-to-day things all the time. And then someone says, you need to do all this stuff. You suck at modern marketing. Everything's falling apart. And you're like, man, when am I ever going to find the time to do any of this? And even if I did have the time to do this, I don't know. I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of. It's just me. So I struggle with this personally. It's the reason why Driveline Studios and Mic Drop and other endeavors are the scale that they are, because to go to the next level, you do need either a team of people around you with the energy and expertise and time to go do these things, because you can't do it alone. I feel like everyone just hears podcast advice, Instagram advice. It's like, stay up, wake up at 3 a.m, do all this stuff. It's like, I don't think it's a time problem. I think it's an energy problem for a lot of people. And at the dinner, it sounded like that's where it was, because at the dinner, we had time to spend 3 hours working on the business, right? And that person has that time, but it's very lonely to try to do this yourself. And you're now playing with a system in your business that if you make a mistake, it is way costlier than when it was just you trying to do the thing. So like, talk to me about kind of that.
Yeah, I think it's really important, you touched on this earlier, to find people. That there are CEO groups in every major city. There are peer groups that you can join that will force you to go through this exercise, right? And we were going to wait till episode 100, but part of what you and I have going on, and you said it earlier, but we have run Side Hustle Wednesday for over a decade, where you have come to my house. We have built entire businesses. We have built entire programs for other companies. How we built PRI on Wednesday nights. A lot of these companies that we've been involved with have come from you and me just sitting down on a Wednesday night and go, all right, forget everything else. What's on our list? And my wife Tina keeps this list, right? And we would just go through it every Wednesday night, and we might pop off on something. And I think, reach out to another shop that's not a competitor, or maybe they are a competitor, or whatever, and just, or if somebody does something amazing and you see it, like, call them and say, hey, can you give me the details on how you launched that new product? Because I've got something I want to do the same thing with. I think that's super important, because it can be lonely. I mean, I hate it when I hear you say that, because you're spot on with some of these folks.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes for today to talk about continuing education, but also this idea of like mastermind groups. And like, we don't, as an industry, do a great job of this. I think a lot of people in this industry are lone wolves by, nature. And they do feel like these are my competitors, or I don't want to show weakness and tell people that I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know how to get a team in place like this. But like, one, I would say, if you're listening to this and you feel that way, reach out to us, because I want a group like this. And that's why we made the Automotive Advantage. It's not so you and I can keep talking to one another. It's to grow this thing into a bigger group. Also, I think continuing education. I just got back from an event in the firearms space where I learned about man tracking and CQB and all kinds of cool stuff, but just being exposed to new knowledge, being exposed to experts in any space is so good for you, because you're like, all right, now I'm fired up, right? And what we're hearing, not from one person and from many people, is I listen to your podcast because it gives me an hour to think about this stuff, right? And that's the coolest part of this entire thing. And that will always be the biggest payoff, to hear that. But like, yeah, get involved. Call up some of your old shop buddies. Call up, someone, and just start a little group. Start a text thread. Text us. I don't care. But like, the loneliness, or the isolation, I should say, of like, I have to make these decisions. I don't know how to do it. It's hard. But if you have someone with a little bit of energy and they're like, dude, I'll take on the YouTube thing, or I'll work on the website. Why don't we stop doing this and we can go do that? As opposed to like, because I understand every day it's like, what do you mean that bolt is broken off? What do you mean I have to call and tell this guy to bring his car tomorrow because the cylinder heads didn't show up? Like, that will take all of the hours of a day unless you can make time for this. So yeah, I think it's hard to do, but that's the work that's going to take you from wherever you are to where you want to go.
Hey, one other thought, not just the marketing, right? But when you adapt to this new fragmented media and you decide you're going to go for it, there are downstream impacts. Like, if you're a fab shop, do you have enough welders to take on what you were doing in 2021, right? Because we had this huge surge. It's dropped off dramatically in the last 2.5 years. Do you have the people? Does your shipping department know what's coming? Like, those are real things. I'm just throwing that out there because I know that might get, you might try it. You might get 6 months into this thing and go, holy cow, they were right. My whole company's changed. And now I've got to staff up, and I'm another 4 technicians short. So there's some other impacts to think about.
Yeah, and this is why I think you can start at the bottom of the funnel too, because it gives you a little easier stepping path. So like, you're at your shop right now, you know exactly what's going on. Just pretend that whatever your next thing that you're going to do on the top of the funnel works. Okay, what if we go from 3 orders a day to 12 orders a day? Like, I can work on that easier than I can work on building an entire YouTube empire. So it's like, okay, how would we do that? Oh, we do have shipping in place. Okay, that's good. Okay, we do have packaging in place. Okay, that's good. Okay, our website is looking good. Like, if you start at the bottom of the funnel, those are more actionable, easy to bite off items a little bit, and then you can grow the top. I think the worst thing in the world would just be to go start making YouTube content and be like, oh no, now I have all these orders. I don't even have the parts. I don't have the supply chain to do that. So yeah, I think you can start with little bite-sized things too, right? That would help.
All right. I think we've covered this as far as I wanted to go today, but I want to make sure, again, this has changed in the last couple of years. Folks are not alone. This isn't new to you, that everybody's going through this, and we're trying to put a light on this so we can keep the industry that we love so much moving forward. Is that good, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this question, adapt or die strategies to fix your sales funnel, is essentially the podcast. So we're not gonna solve it today, but like every one of these conversations that we find ourselves in is something that we can talk about that people can take a little nugget from and then hear it again. And that's why we're so excited to start bringing guests on, because we don't know everything. And so it's great to hear from outsiders who are like, oh wait, I did solve that problem. That one thing you guys are struggling with, I solved that problem. So that's going to be exciting, because then people can hear from people who are doing it and be like, I mean, I'm telling you guys, the Justin Keith thing, I mean, what he's doing and then what he sells from doing that is just inspirational. You're going to hear it and be like, okay, that's what it takes. Let's start it up, So yeah, we didn't solve this for anybody, but hopefully we gave people some direction there.
Yeah, that's good. And I think after that, it's down to the individual company, right? And like you said, we'll bring people in here that are doing it. Man, it's good when you see someone that crushes it. And Justin Keith's going to change a lot of opinion. I think he's got it figured out. So let's go to the top of the agenda, which is the podcast update. I think we've touched on a bunch of the stuff. Galimi should be out when you watch this, so make sure you go back if you haven't watched the Mike Galimi interview. It's great. Mike Galimi did an awesome job kind of framing up a very tough seat. Where's the media going? Where's Hot Rod going? How does it affect you as an automotive company? Big stuff. We touched on our metrics, but again, the feedback we're getting is awesome. Thank you. Keep sending us notes. We love it. We're not looking to have 1 million followers. I'm thinking, honestly, like if we got to 1,000 people that watch this every week and could take advantage of us bringing people in, that's perfect. So let's jump to the news. Are you ready to talk a little bit about the news? I already talked about one of them, but you had Clubhouse Era. We're in the Clubhouse Era. I immediately was thinking of the membership economy and some of the big membership groups that we grew for SEMA and PRI. And I'm going to drop a book reference in here, which is The Membership Economy by Robbie Kelman Baxter. And we actually had Robbie as a consultant at PRI. But Justin, something's going on the high end in the auto industry where membership has its privileges. Is that how we're supposed to say it? So,
yeah, this is not a fully formed thought or thesis yet, but it's something that I'm noticing more and more. And I think the next decade will be what I originally was calling the friendship economy, but now I'm moving more towards this Clubhouse era. I think this started with country clubs, maybe way back in the day. Like-minded people were like, hey, we want to hang out together. Instead of hanging out with my neighbors, I'm going to join this country club. I'm going to meet people who like golf and the pool and drinking mimosas, and that was that. And forever, that was it. That was kind of the thing. And then we saw in the gym space, little clubhouses starting to pop up here and there. Like, you don't just go to the gym, you join some sort of group that does this activity over and over again. In the car space, the first version of this would be the M1 model of, we have a racetrack, people come to the racetrack. Oh, what if people could store their stuff at the racetrack and we could build a little community around people at the racetrack? So car condos became a thing. The problem with car condos is still kind of siloed a little bit. So then people started moving to this membership-based model, which was like, I'm going to join a car storage facility and I'm going to store my car there. But in the front, there's like a little coffee shop. There's a place to hang out. I can meet like-minded people. Then people like Syed here in Detroit were like, well, what if we take that model and then we make a club out of it, right? So Out of Office Garage is a social club. There's a component of storing your car. There's a component of going on drives and going to the track. But there's dinners, there's hangouts, there's Thursday nights. So all of a sudden, you have a bunch of people with the same hobby hanging out. Significant others are getting involved. There's cigar nights. There's all kinds of cool stuff. And like, this model is going to be more and more relevant in the future, I think. And if I'm a shop or if I'm a niche of anything, it's like, what can I do with that? One, I could join it, and that's great. Be a part of that community. But two, I could build it, right? If it doesn't exist in my city, I could build that thing. The membership economy was more converting people from owning things into paying you a subscription for the rest of your life. That was kind of the thing of that. And then sub-bullet was delivering them value that they would pay for forever. So going from a one-time payment to an ongoing recurring payment. The Clubhouse era, though, I think is more a return to the old neighborhood. It's a return to people hanging out more. And we talk about AI a lot here. We talk about the internet a lot here. But I think a social component and more humanity is going to become more and more prevalent the more the internet kind of fragments us and breaks us apart. So Out of Office Garage was a great example. Then I went to this other place called Moto here in Detroit as well. It's effectively a motorcycle club, but not like the old school Harley motorcycle club, more of like a creative motorcycle club. So it was a lot of guys from the OEMs. It was a lot of designers and engineers. They have motorcycles, but really they're there to hang out. They do a really cool like Wednesday event. I don't know if it's every Wednesday or once a month or whatever, where they come together and they brainstorm a product and then they make a logo for it and they make a mood board for it, like this really cool creative thing. And I'm just seeing this more and more. And I think it's great because people are hanging out and there's, you know, it's what the racetrack used to be, but every week, every day, you can go to these places. And I think there's a lot of upside here. So for me, I'm tracking this Clubhouse era. I'm joining clubhouses because I love it. From a business model perspective, super cool. You can buy a great space. You can get 50 of your friends to give you $200 a month to pay for the space. And then you can hang out there and do cool stuff there and put lifts there and do all these things. So that's where I'm at. Have you seen anything like this? Do you have any thoughts about the Clubhouse era?
Yeah, I'm interested because of the events they do here at Out of Office Garage, one of them has been a poker night, and you were telling me what a bunch of suckers those guys are and how easy it is to take their money, right? Didn't you tell me that?
Yeah, I didn't tell you that, no. I did say that's one of the craziest poker nights I've ever been to with a bunch of savages that are, some are really good at poker and some are really good at having a lot of chips on the table, I'll say.
Well, maybe I made that up. I don't know. A couple thoughts here in membership. People are going to listen to this and be like, yeah, that's like people hanging out. Like, that's not anything I should think about for my business. Hold on. I'm going to give you two examples of this thing. Haggerty Insurance probably has the best membership for car people that we could point toward, okay? And you can say, that's because they want to sell insurance and it's not worth it. That thing sold for $5 billion 3 or 4 years ago. That's how big memberships can be in this industry, okay? I'm going to go another way with this, which is one of the folks that approached me in the run-up to the High Performance Expo was the guy that handles the high net worth individuals for JP Morgan Chase in North Carolina and South Carolina. They're all car people. Okay, well, we will eventually do something with that group of people where they come to the High Performance Expo and they have a meetup, and maybe manufacturers want to be there, maybe shops want to show off their cars, maybe there's companies that are there that want investors or they are thinking about selling their company in the next couple of years. So pay attention. I love this topic, like really pay attention to what's going on, because typically, and I think Tony Watley has talked about this quite a bit in some of his podcasts, like you can go meet some amazing people that can help you with your business. This might be how you help your business. You get experts that just know of your shop, want to help you, and they've got the energy to take you to another level.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's cool. This is why country clubs work, because you go there, you don't talk about business, but you do know that other people are in business, and if you need a connection, they have it, right? Yeah, so I think, but I do think there's a component of this for even the smallest of shops to, maybe you're not going to have a clubhouse, but maybe you're like, man, we do one dyno day a year. What if we did them monthly? What if we did them bi-weekly? We've been putting off doing cars and coffee, but what if we were really serious about cars and coffee? What if people started coming here habitually? What if people started buying merch? You know, like from a brand building perspective, this is huge. We were talking earlier about how people won't pay 10% over for a product. They will pay 10% over for a brand though. So I think as you're starting to build these things out, go join one for sure. See what we're talking about here, but I want to see these everywhere. I want to be a member of these in all different places. So when I show up in Atlanta, I'm like, I know where I'm going to hang out. I know there are going to be people there that are into the things I'm into. We've definitely seen this with private racetracks. Spring Mountain, another good example. Monticello, another good example. Thermal, another good example. But those were at the tippy top, super wealth. Now I think we're seeing it come down into our tax bracket. And I love that. So from a community standpoint, I think these things are huge. So something we're definitely going to be tracking in the future.
Yeah. Good. Love it. Let's shift to artificial intelligence, because I want to keep sharing our journey. It's just huge. Please join us playing around with AI. This is a big deal. I've got two kind of observations this week, and I've been using AI daily, just in a bunch of different ways, right? Really stretching it a little bit. First of all, I did sign up. I did pay my $20 a month to be what is that called? A pro member?
Yeah, you're a pro. You're an AI pro now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I immediately appreciated the classic marketing technique that they use, which is called a freemium. Okay. So that means they gave me something free, and it got me a way to sample their product for free, and they left a little bit off so that there were other things that I wanted, and for that I was happy to pay a monthly fee. So this isn't necessarily artificial intelligence, but it just showed me one of these marketing techniques that shops can use, accessory companies can use, truck builders can use. Like, give a little sample. Maybe it's your tech advice, installing a shock, whatever that is. Give that away. That's okay. Know that you're going to have people that are going to come to you as paying customers. So, freemium. Is there any examples there that you want to explore?
Freemium's been crushing it forever. I think from a shop level, hard to do, but there's a lot of advice you can give to people. There's a lot of like, again, come to my cars and coffee if you're a member, right? And then kind of walk them into that life. But yeah, I think that model will never go away. And as an industry, I don't think anyone's really cracked it yet. I would say the streamers are probably the closest to that. Cletus may be the closest to that, where it's like, hey, you get all this free content, but if you want it on my Patreon, you're going to get more exclusive stuff, XYZ. So for sure we see it there. But yeah, a shop with some sort of freemium model would be really exciting to see.
All right, good. I just want to make people aware of that. Just a quick way to think about how you market your stuff. I've been exploring, well, several things. I want AI to build me a website. I've been playing with that. We also did like a research paper for a specific product. It was insanely good at doing deep research. So, in fact, I sent this material to another writer that I know real well, Mark Houlihan. I don't mind talking about Mark. He's a great guy. He came back with, wow, AI is amazing. I'm like, yeah, dude, like but you still have to have the creative thought. You still have to give it direction. You still have to frame it up, but it can go nuts. I've also been playing with logo design. So let me share with everyone how I typically build a logo. It's, hey, Justin, I need a logo. And maybe I give you an idea, but I don't even think I give you an idea. I think you just probably nod like you're doing right now. So I've been playing around with logos with AI helping me. It gets close, but I still need a professional to take the thing where I want to go. And I will say, I've tried to give it extremely detailed description of how I wanted to modify a logo. The good side was I could hand draw it and it recognized it and it threw it into a digital format real fast. The downside is I couldn't tweak it much after that. So you're way further through this, but can I do logos on AI? What can I do here?
You definitely can. I mean, I think I have an idea in my head. I'm not a creative person. I'm a business owner. I'm a technician, whatever, but I really want this one thing to happen. There are two ways you used to, there was one way you used to have to do that. You used to have to find a designer. You used to have to pay them a bunch of money. You had to explain your idea to them, which you probably couldn't articulate very well. Then they had to make a bunch of mock-ups and then come back to you. And maybe one of them fit, but most likely it didn't translate that great. And now you're like, no, I don't like any of these. I really wanted it like this. But actually seeing that gives me some more direction that I can help you with. AI, again, you can do that at 3 a.m. for $20 a month. And it can just give you a bunch of options. And you can find one where you're like, oh, I really like this. Now I'm either going to take this and really make it myself, or I'm going to take this and give it to a designer and say, hey, I like this. It's not perfect. By the way, this is not the right file format. I can't send this to a printer. I can't make it big. It's only this small, right? There's a lot of limitations. But as like this is my idea. Can you make it? And they're gonna be like, yeah, dude, I can take that. I can make it exactly what you want. I see where it's messed up. Let me do that. Oh, wait, you really wanted it to be this blue, not that one, right? You can do all that. So as an iterator and as like a get me close enough to go hand this to someone who can then take it from there, unbelievable for that, for sure. One of the very frustrating things that you're finding is it will make something that is exactly what you want, and then you will say, that's perfect, just change the word advantage to be a little bit longer, and it will just make a whole new thing. And you're like, no, I do exactly what, and it'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I should have done exactly what you said. Let me regenerate it. And then it'll just make a third thing. And that will get better. But right now, anybody who's tried this is a very frustrating part to get to. Now, in OpenAI, I will say, if you click on the image, you can go like edit a part of the image now, which is nice. You can just say, I like this, but I want to be here. Just change this, don't change the rest of it. That's helpful. And in Mid-Journey now, there's a lot of options to say, I want to use this exact prompt again, but I want a different output, or I want to use this exact image style again, but I want to use a different output or input. So yeah, depending on the tools. This is another problem with AI right now. The fragmentation in AI is crazy. It's like, oh yeah, that won't work in OpenAI. You need to have Mid-Journey. It's like, okay, now I'm on Mid-Journey. It's like, oh, Mid-Journey doesn't work. You need Claude. Okay, now I'm in Claude. So like, this is like early anything. There's a trillion players in the space. For me, I have so many logins to these things because we're trying to stay on top of it, but like it can be a little daunting. But what you went through with the logo is a perfect example of like, just get me close, then I can hand this to someone, they can finish it, they can make me all the file sizes I need, they can make sure everything's proper. Yeah, but again, there would have been no way for you to do that 5 years ago, and especially if you didn't know anyone at an agency or a designer. So I think it's a great tool for that.
Yeah, I like the human touch still, and I always like it when you get close and a graphic designer will give you 6 versions of it, right? Because it helps you get your logo in the right direction. And we'll come back and explore logo design at some point. That has been one of the most popular topics we've ever presented publicly, because people, they're for obvious reasons, they're immediately attracted to their logo. They're very passionate about it. It's very personal to them. And they want to make it right. So we can come through back and do some guidelines there.
Spoiler alert, the Automotive Advantage logo that you see on your podcast app was made in AI. So,
Oh,
yeah.
it was? Pretty good.
It's all right. It was close enough. It got us launched, right? And then you can tweak it from there.
All right. I think we've covered a lot. Most importantly, we want to make sure that people are aware of where their customers are and how to go get them. You got anything else on your list you want to cover, Tim?
I have 2 bonus AI topics. There's this not new, but kind of new concept of agents, AI agents. So originally, everyone has been kind of used to this AI where you're talking to a thing, you tell it what to do, and then it does it, and then you close the chat window, and that's kind of it. Agents are emerging now, which are things that you can tell to do something repetitively. So you could say, agent, every morning I want you to scan the local DMV website or whatever and figure out XYZ and send it to me in Excel format. Or I want you to dig through all my invoices and find all the unpaid ones and flag them in an Excel format, whatever. So agents are going to be more and more popular. So I think we're going to start watching that more and come up with real solutions for people. But any task where you're like, I hate doing this repetitively, I can't pay someone to do it because it's like too menial of a task, but it does take up a lot of my time. AI agents are going to be great for that. So that's one, I think. And the other one was from our dinner where, and I hear this a lot, it's like, man, I spend a lot of time on the phone telling people things, and then they get all the info they want, and then they just go buy it somewhere else. I wish I didn't have to be on the phone as often unless someone is highly qualified and ready to buy. And I think AI will be a huge help for this in the future. So the way to do this will be to train an AI on all of these questions and answers that you get, and then have that AI be able to respond to these in the future. So the responding part is probably a little ways out, especially if someone's calling you on the phone. Although voice AI is getting very good, and reminder, the AI you're using today is the worst it's ever going to be. It's only going to get better, right? So, but to do this, you're going to have to train it on all of these things. So in my mind, I'm already thinking like, okay, I need a document where every single time something comes up in our business that is a repeatable thing, I need to be documenting that so that eventually I can put it into this machine and it can say, oh yeah, anytime that happens, this is the response to that. And if I'm a shop, I'm like, all right, what packages should I be writing down? What are common questions that I get? Anybody who's been at a big, there used to be workbooks of these things where it's like, oh, what are you calling about? Okay, let me flip to page 57. Okay, the bolt that you need is this bolt, like that type of stuff. Now you can feed it and you can get instantaneous response from that. So I think a solution is coming. It's going to be a lot of work to get there. But imagine if you never had to be on the phone again, unless it was the end of the funnel, really closing a sale, but you could give people great information all 24 hours a day without tying up your time. Huge. So we're going to keep tracking on that. That was one I just thought was important.
Yeah, your 24 hours a day comment is really important. In fact, I think AI is more advanced in the car sales space than most people are tracking. And we watch Car Dealership Guy. He's been pushing AI for at least 12 months on the dealership side. So I think you're right. There's models there where you can be selling high performance camshafts 24 hours a day and get really good customer service. And you wake up in the morning and you got 200 orders. That's where we're headed with this stuff. All right, we got anything else on your list?
That's it for my list.
Strong. Number 6 was strong.
Number 6 is a good one.
Close it out.
That's the pod.